Paula, take us through this ruling and what it means for the president-elect.
Wolf, after this opinion, President-elect Trump is still a convicted felon, but there is some good news here as the judge is signaling that he does not intend to impose penalties against Trump after being convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business records last year. The judge did have the option to impose a jail sentence, but in a sort of unusual move, he's previewing what he will do next Friday, saying that is not something he is going to do. He says, quote, "It seems improper at this juncture. It seems proper at this juncture to make known the court's inclination to not impose any sentence of incarceration." So he's imposing a sentence of what he describes as unconditional discharge, because that, he says, is the most viable solution. Now, unconditional discharge just means there'll be a sentencing, but there'll be no penalties, no community service, no fine, no jail. So what happens next Friday will largely be performative. Now, it's also notable the judge is making a real concession about the demands that Trump faces as president-elect. This is something that his lawyers have continuously argued. Judge Juan Merchan says, quote, "To assuage the defendant's concerns regarding the mental and physical demands during the transition period, this court will permit the defendant to exercise his right to appear virtually for this proceeding if he so chooses." And this is notable because over the course of this case, Judge Juan Merchan has not been terribly sympathetic to many of the presidential-related arguments that Trump's lawyers have made. But here they're saying, yeah, we know you have a lot of time on your hand, a lot of things to do, not much time, so you should not be burdened with having to travel up to New York for this sentencing. Now, the Trump team was trying to get the entire case dismissed, have the verdict tossed out. They were not successful here, but they can continue their appeal. But in a statement today, Trump's communication director, Stephen Chung, making it clear they're not overall very happy with how this turned out, saying, quote, "There should be no sentencing. And President Trump will continue fighting against these hoaxes until they are all dead," likely referring to the 4 criminal cases Trump has faced. Of course, the 2 federal cases filed by Jack Smith are dead. They have been dismissed. The Georgia case is on life support. And here in New York, Trump was convicted, but the judge here signaling he will not face any penalties.
Even though he was convicted of 34 felonies, as you point out. Paula Reed, thank you very, very much. Our legal and political experts are joining us right now. Jennifer Rogers, you're one of our legal analysts, former federal prosecutor. Trump is going to be sentenced, but the judge says he won't face any penalties. Explain from your perspective what's going on here.
Well, the judge has 2 options: a conditional discharge, which means it comes with conditions. The defendant must serve a jail sentence or pay a fine or have some sort of supervision, or an unconditional discharge, meaning there are no conditions at all. The case is just discharged. That's what Judge Merchan is signaling that he will do. And it makes sense because once this election happened and Trump was reelected, the die was cast. He was not going to prison. He was not going to be supervised. The only option really was a fine. And the maximum fine here is just not high enough to make any difference to Trump. So you might as well not issue any sentence at all. That makes the conviction final. Trump can pursue his appeal, but it makes it much less likely that the sentence will be stopped. So I think it actually was wise. I think we want closure here. We want these felonies to be finalized. That's what the people should want.
It's a disgrace to the Constitution. And to Alicia's point, the fact that they didn't tell anyone about it lets you know that they knew what they were doing was untoward. So they didn't want to put a spotlight on it, but they wanted to do it anyway. Vaughn, how in this next iteration of what folks have been calling Trump 2.0, how can people hold this administration accountable? Because I do think it is not a small thing. It wasn't just some party. Like, they're letting you know where their values are, what they think, and frankly, that if the president-elect was not successful in this last election, that they would have done it again.
I think that when you look at Simone, the last 4 years in leading up to this point, there have been, people like John Eastman and Jeffrey Clark. They have sort of been, I guess, kept at a distance to a certain degree. Michael Flynn as well. There have been, they've definitely remained allies. They've visited Mar-a-Lago here and there. But last night, just 2 weeks before January 20th, was inauguration Inauguration Day, I think was a clear indicator and an affirmation that Donald Trump will defend those who are dutifully loyal to him. This is coming at a time in which he has said that he would look at the cases of those individuals who attacked the Capitol 4 years ago. There have been more than 1,100 convictions of individuals who were a part of that mob that descended onto the Capitol. And I think an important part of this is also the parallel between welcoming individuals like Michael Flynn, who is a conspiracy theorist and was in an Oval Office meeting where he allegedly, before January 6th, had conversations with Donald Trump about potentially implementing martial law and seizing voting machines. But that event happening in parallel to a top European leader in the Italian prime minister, and merging those two events, I think is an indication of Donald Trump's style of leadership. This is, right, Mar-a-Lago, a place where not only Justin Trudeau has flown to, but Viktor Orban, the new the new NATO Secretary General. This is a time in which everybody is cognizant of the importance of having a close relationship with Donald Trump, and Trump, to his part, with having the Italian conservative right-wing Giorgia Meloni present, she could be very much a key ally in Europe for him, along with Viktor Orban, as negotiations and conversations take place about additional U.S. aid to Ukraine, but also the trade wars that Donald Trump has threatened actions to take against Europe. So I think that this is all very much coming to a head simultaneously in ways that I think are very representative of how the first Trump administration operated, and so far how it appears the second Trump administration will look here in 2025.
Well, the reality, at least for me, goes to the heart of what Simone said. Folks, the slime you feel right now when you hear this story, that thing in your gut that goes, ugh, this doesn't seem right. To Kimberly's point, we only have one president at a time. Trump doesn't give a crap about that. He's the man. Doesn't matter. And so when you have this environment that's being played out in front of you, understand a couple of things, Kimberly. One, I think, is that Donald Trump at this point is going to relitigate 2020. So y'all need to buckle down for that. Vaughn, get your pad ready, baby, because you'll be writing about 2020 as if it happened yesterday. Because from where he's sitting, he wants to prove that that election was stolen. That's why he's leveling up this misfit, this menagerie of misfits. He didn't want them around him because he had no use for them then, because he didn't know if he'd get back in the White House. Now he's back, and they're back. And it goes to the heart of something that came out of the January 6th Election Committee report, in which at a January 4th meeting in the Oval Office, Eastman himself acknowledged that any variation of his proposal, whether rejecting
Hello ji, welcome back our YouTube channel. Our discussion on Trump John Roberts wins that people say Supreme Court to political basis. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts realized his end of affairs report this post Tuesday, and literally no reason other than avoiding this just under his skin. He included a propaganda in his end of the airport about how angry he is over the fact that police official, which of course means Democrats are accusing the United States Supreme Court of having some kind of political basis, right? I mean that the most absurd thing that John Roberts have ever heard here, what Roberts wrote in that end of the airport. Republican officials recently have engaged in a recently attempts to intimidate judges. I am gonna have to stop here. You dump right here immediately. Judges, the public officials are immediately. There is one person in the country whose relative is publicly immigrant, and ultimately judges, and that's the man of the Republican uh, just made the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, is openly threatening of the immediately the judges that are the overseeing the case against him. So how dare you side there is a cause of public officials of the trying to that. That is that most bull crop I have early here out of disgusting month. Thank you for watching my video.